You always hear about vaccines, but do you really know what it's doing? This brings me to the topic of my speech, vaccines and how they work. Living in a pandemic due to COVID-19 means that a vaccine for the virus has come out to keep people out of the hospitals as much as possible. And people have debated whether or not they should get it without knowing the full facts about a vaccine. It is so common for myths about the COVID-19 vaccine to scare people away from getting them that Johns Hopkins Medicine on March 10th, 2022 wrote an article comparing COVID-19 vaccines myths and facts. The purpose of my speech is to inform you on vaccines and how they work. To inform you, I will explain the definition of a vaccine, then explain how they work, and finally, I will tell you the different vaccines that we have. According to the CDC, on September 1st, 2021, a vaccine is a preparation that is used to stimulate the body's immune response against diseases. Vaccines are usually administered through needle injections, but some can be administered by mouth or sprayed into the nose. I remember being asked when I was younger if I wanted to receive the vaccine through a needle or a spray. I had not had a vaccine from a spray or been asked in a long time because it is not as common as receiving it through the needle. Having read this definition reminded me of that memory. Understanding what a vaccine is not enough to understand how they work, so I will now explain how they work. The vaccine has to cause the immune system to react and produce antibodies. To do this, the vaccine will either be the whole pathogen itself or a product of the pathogen that can no longer cause disease, according to McGraw-Hill 2020 in the Human Biology textbook. If the whole virus or pathogen itself is used, it is usually a weakened version that can no longer cause harm to the body. One of the products of the pathogen that is typically used is called the spike protein. Spike proteins are what trigger the immune system to produce an antibody, which are like specialized soldiers that fight off the virus. The body then remembers instructions to make that antibody if the virus were to ever come back. For example, if you were to contract the virus, the body will remember these instructions, produce these antibodies, and you will not be as sick as you normally would be without these prepared instructions. You still might get a little sick, but it won't be quite as severe. Now that you know what vaccines are and what they do, now we will learn the different types of vaccines that are presently used. Some common vaccines that you may know are chickenpox, influenza, also known as flu, hepatitis A and B, HPV, mumps and measles, tetanus, and of course, COVID-19. The list and more can be found on Vaccinate Your Family, March 25th, 2022. A lot of these vaccines are required for children to be in school, like chickenpox, mumps, measles, HPV, and now COVID-19. Other vaccines, like the COVID-19 vaccine, require booster shots so that your body can continue to receive instructions to fight against the virus. Some vaccines, like the flu vaccine, requires an annual dose to protect against different strains of the virus. Some vaccines do not need a booster to keep the body up to date with the virus, but others do, like the COVID-19 vaccine. In the last few minutes, I have discussed what a vaccine is, how it works, and how it applies to the present day. Vaccines have changed how we fight illnesses, knowing how they work for our body. Now, when you decide whether or not you should get a vaccine or whether or not a vaccine is safe, you are well informed to make a good decision.